Spotlighting Hawaii's leaders.
We want to bring in Governor David E.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor.
Lieutenant Governor, good morning. Thanks so much for joining us. Mayor Derek Kawakami.
Thank you so much, Senator, for being here.
Spotlighting the issues.
Where is the virus right now in our community?
How much is this overall going to cost the state?
How are you responding to the community's concerns? Talk about the level of citations that you guys are writing.
Spotlight Hawaii with Yanji Denise and Ryan Kalei Suji on the digital platforms of the Honolulu Star-Advertiser. This episode of Spotlight Hawaii is brought to you by Chaminade University.
Aloha and good morning. I'm Ryan Kalei Suji, joined by Yanji Denise, and this is Spotlight Hawaii as we start a new month together. Looking forward to another month of exciting conversations. This morning, we are spotlighting our education system and heading on over to the Department of Education, Yanji.
Yeah, this department has been in the news. In fact, there's a big article about substitute teachers in the paper today that we're going to get to, but there are so many questions about how the school year is going. So we're going straight to the top. Hawaii Department of Education interim superintendent Keith Hayashi is joining us this morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Ryan. Good morning, Yanji.
It's so good to have you. The last time we talked, you had basically just taken the reins and we're kind of getting your legs under you. It's been 3 months now. Let's look overall at the broad picture. You started the school year at the height of the Delta variant. There were so many cases. Today, we're happy to report just 69 cases reported in the state. How have the last 3 months been for you?
Looking back, we're very proud that we were able to open fully. And start the school year with a focus on in-person learning. Getting our students in school in person is, so important. As a department, we've worked with the Department of Health to provide health and safety protocols for our schools to help keep our schools open and safe. And, those schools continue to do a tremendous job doing everything within their control, to diligently implement the core essential strategies. I think about, my parents have told me before, that it's in time of crisis that you can count on those willing to make a difference. Yeah. And, I just need to thank everyone in the Hawaii State Department of Education, from administrators to teachers to counselors to our custodians and cafeteria workers, office staff, everyone, health room workers, health aides, who have continuously stepped up above and beyond what's expected to ensure that our students are safe and are in school and are learning. And it's not just at our school level, but it's at our complex area level and our state level. Everyone has really pulled together to ensure that our students are safe. I've been really fortunate in this position to be able to travel to other schools on other islands and other complex areas. And, I've gone to, so far, all of the neighbor island complex areas. I'm starting on Oahu now. But time and time again, as I visit schools and I talk with teachers and administrators and sometimes parents, parents are appreciative and our teachers and administrators and counselors and staff that they're working so hard above and beyond. And so when we talk about in times of crisis, good people stand up and do the right thing. That's what I've seen time and time again in our schools. So I just want to take this opportunity to thank everyone for all that they've done, as well as our community members, who have practiced and heeded the advice of our health leaders and our governmental leaders to practice, safety so that we can keep our schools open. We've been looking at what we've done in the last 3 months. Also, we've stood up a data dashboard, and you can go to our homepage, hawaiipublicschools.org, and from there you can access that data dashboard and to show you exactly where the cases are. And that includes, as I think I shared with you the last time, it includes teachers, staff, adults, as well as students, COVID positive cases in the schools. And I think our last report, and we're averaging statewide 257 schools, 160,000 students, 40,000 employees. I think the last count was averaging about 12 to 15, might have been even 10. So definitely what the community is doing is supporting us, what we're doing in the schools. The mitigation strategies that schools are implementing in the schools are working. So we look forward to continuing to keep our schools open, keep our students engaged, and continuing those innovative practices, that have sometimes resulted as a result of the situation that we're in with the pandemic. That's some of the other things I see at the school is that, we have different things happening and different ways of learning, as well as continuing innovative practices that are happening at schools. From from Kohala High School and what they're doing with natural resources and keeping school open there, and innovative practices with sustainability, to Hana High School and what they're doing with construction, and their construction pathway. To elementary schools who are engaging students in all sorts of tech. So it's really reassuring to visit these schools and to see the hardworking teachers and school staff, principals and vice principals, making things happen and making good things happen in the public schools.
You spoke about safety, and we hear and we see those COVID reports as well as some of the clusters reports. And a recent school cluster of COVID-19 that was found in schools was blamed on insufficient ventilation and some of the issues that are happening because of the structure of the classroom. What are you specifically maybe telling teachers, staff, principals on the ground there of how to deal with a situation where the ventilation system may not be up to par, and how is the department moving forward going to be dealing with some of those ventilation issues, knowing that COVID-19 is something that we're going to be dealing with for some time now?
Definitely. Our Office of Facilities and Operations has sent out CO2 monitors, which monitors the air quality in the classrooms, and each school has those devices. What we're also telling teachers, though, in the classrooms is to open your windows, right? And to let that fresh air, cross ventilation happen in the classroom. Because where we see when teachers do that and classrooms do that and they open their windows for cross ventilation, those numbers dramatically go down. So that's really important. I think that we continue to open our windows, our doors. We do have fans in rooms that they're positioned in the opposite direction to suck in clean air. And also classrooms have filters, HEPA filters that they've used to help with air quality. So I think if we continue those strategies that has proven to be effective, we'll continue to be able to meet needs of our students, and to keep our classrooms open.
I want to ask you about the HSTA's petition to the Labor Board. We had Osatui Jr. on here on Friday, and they expressed some of the concerns that the teachers union is having, the members are having over COVID safety protocols. He spoke in detail about the quarantine procedures. Are there set standards that are sort of school-wide, or does it vary complex area by complex area? And if so, why is there a difference? And and sort of on a broader level also, can you respond to the HSTA's complaint to the board?
Well, while I can't speak directly to the complaint, because that'll be handled through the process, the process that's set by the Labor Relations Board. I think it's important to note that since May 2020, the department has been meeting monthly with HSTA to discuss COVID-related issues, and to gather input and concerns, and also to problem solve on how we can provide clarity and best address the different concerns that were raised. In general, we have clear protocols, in place, and they're specified and spelled out in our health and safety guidance, which is developed in conjunction with the Department of Health. We rely on them, as a subject matter experts, and definitely when they provide us information that we need to update, we update our guidance in a timely manner. And again, that's available on our website. It reinforced through various communications, such as newsletters, parent letters, social media campaign. In addition, we've created flyers and visuals to help schools and families understand how close contacts are determined in the school setting, and what the quarantine requirements are for different scenarios. Because sometimes, with as school administrators, we have guidelines that we follow, but no two situations are exactly the same. And so we rely on our principals who do a great job, and their administrative team to, depending on the situation, they need to adjust a little here or there, looking at identifying close contacts. And so while people may think that it's a one size fits all, depending on the situation, it can't be, right? Because each situation is unique in and of itself. So we are continuing to work together with HSTA. We're definitely committed to continuing those meetings. I think those meetings have been going on, I think, since May 2020, monthly, and at least monthly. And so we definitely continue to working, and meeting moving forward.
And in those meetings that you're saying that you're having with teachers, these monthly meetings to get information and to clarify some of the rulings that you folks are presenting, what are the concerns that you're hearing from them? Because on our side, what we've heard last week during our interview with the HSTA was that there is no clarity, that there is often confusion with some of these quarantine rules. What are the concerns that the teachers are bringing up to you during these meetings that are helping you to adjust in the management moving forward with COVID-19 related issues?
Actually, the meeting is with the HSTA leadership, and their concerns that they raise with the department. And so, similar to what you have shared, and we have also shared our thoughts, and we'll continue to do that moving forward.
I want to ask you about the headline in the paper today regarding substitute teachers. On the bright side, the teacher shortage is at a level that we haven't seen in a number of years. Of course, there is still a teacher shortage, but because there are fewer students, the need for teachers is not as great as it has been in past years. That said, the article really outlines what sounds like a pretty dire situation when it comes to substitutes. Can you tell us your thoughts on that? And what is the situation? Is it true that principals or complex area superintendents are even having to come in and teach?
Well, we a couple of things happening related to personnel. So one is the teacher shortage, right, that you alluded to, and we do have recruitment efforts going on with the teacher shortage to address the number of vacancies that we have. Currently, we have on the teacher side, roughly about 250, I think, or so vacancies, which is down over the last 2 years. I think 2 years ago, it was well over 400. We've been able to fill vacant positions with qualified substitutes until a teacher can be hired. The last 2 weeks, teacher recruitment and staff have called each school to verify their vacancy information to assess the recruitment needs at our schools. And we've prioritized local recruits, local graduates from our teacher programs. We have incentive programs in place. We have an ambassador program. If you go onto our website also, we have a new teacher video that speaks to what we're looking for in teachers in Hawaii. And it's a video that is not only locally, but nationally. Anyone can log on to that site and take a look. It's a very well done video by our Department of Office of Talent Management. And it speaks to the kinds of qualities that we're looking for individuals who want to be teachers in Hawaii, because it takes a special person to be teachers and educators. And also, it has ambassadors. We have teachers who have stepped up to say, hey, you know what? If someone's interested in teaching and they want to come to Hawaii, they have questions, they can call on us, and we'll answer those questions. So that website, teachinhawaii.org, is something that if you can help us with your viewers, if anyone's interested in teaching, definitely, jump on that site and consider being a teacher and making an impact on our youth. In looking at the substitute shortage, definitely, we do have challenges filling substitutes in some of our schools. We're seeing signs of improvement, though, as COVID cases have begun to drop. We have a pool of about 3,300 active substitutes, and there's about 1,200 or so daily requests statewide, with a fill rate of over 90%. So, which is up, I think, just about from just a few weeks ago. It was 80 somewhat percent, I think, around there. So we are making gains on our substitute efforts. Looking at the number, that amounts to less than about 100 subs that go unfilled per day. And when you think about it, I think we have 257 schools. So we want to continue to work on that effort. Again, we want to be sure that we have those substitutes. So if anyone's interested out there that is willing to sub, we've helped with the requirements for substituting. So if you have a high school degree at this point in time, for right now, you qualify. So if again you want to make a difference, you love working with children and students, substituting is something that you definitely would want to consider. We also, as we move forward with the potential vaccine for the vaccinations for our 5 to 11 students, hopefully we'll see an increase in the number of individuals who are willing to substitute too and to help us out. So those things are really important. We continue our active recruiting. We've participated in job fairs. We've actually even partnered with other unions. Unite Here, Local 5, we talk with them to engage them and their membership if they have potential candidates that would be interested in part-time work. So again, if you know anyone or if there's anyone out in your viewing audience that is interested in substituting, please go to our website and register to be a substitute and make a difference, not only in this time of need, but also in the life of a child. So that's really important.
You mentioned vaccine, and we have a question here from Ashley who's asking, what is the plan for vaccinations for 5 to 11-year-olds at schools with parent consent? Will parents be allowed to be present with their child at the time of vaccination? Will kids need their doctor approval before vaccination? I know there's a lot of parents out there who are questioning the rollout process. We've spoken to the governor on this program also, as well as Dr. Char, about those plans for the vaccination rollout for the children in this age range. What can you tell us about the plans that are being made here for the schools to be involved in this, and to answer a question like Ashley's and other parents out there who are wondering about parent consent and their involvement in this process?
But since this past May, I think when the vaccine was approved for adolescents 12 and older, we began offering school clinics, for those older students, right? And back when I was a principal at Waipahu High School, we were out there hosting those clinics, and we've learned from that process. More than 150, I think, school-based clinics statewide. So about 100 of our schools so far have expressed interest in serving as vaccination sites now for age 5 to 11, which is great. And so with our school-based clinics for 12 and up, the same would provide same for our 5 to 11. Many of the 5 to 11 school sites will be designated and operated as closed sites, that accommodate their enrolled students and possibly immediate family members, just depending on the need and the availability. This is to ensure that, especially at our 5 to 11, that's elementary school level, that we have safety. Safety is very important when clinics are running during school hours and even after school hours. Schools will let their families know about the opportunity directly, and vaccinations definitely, to answer your question, Ryan, will require a parent or guardian consent form. We will not be vaccinating any student without that parent or guardian consent. That's very important. And although it's very highly encouraged, COVID vaccinations are not mandatory for students to attend school. Okay, so we can work with our schools, and depending on again the need and the volume of vaccinations requested at particular school sites that will be hosting them, more information will be coming out for schools, community, and parents, and so forth.
I know that vaccinations are not required for school attendance, but they are required for certain athletics. And there's a question here. Are restrictions ever going to be lifted for unvaccinated, or is it going to be vaccinated only to participate in anything school related like sports? Do you see that vaccination requirement for athletics becoming somewhat permanent?
Well, currently there is a vaccination requirement for students to be fully vaccinated to participate in athletics. However, if students have a medical or approved medical or religious exemption, then they're subject to twice a week testing, right? So, and that we put in place because we understand the importance of extracurricular activities in athletics and the role that athletics plays in for our students and their families, but at the same time, needing to do all what we could do to ensure the health and safety of everyone involved, because that's number one, right? We need to be sure that our students' health and safety are paramount. And with that said, so those mitigation strategies that we're practicing in athletics apply to school because we prioritize in-person learning, right? And so while athletics is important, we want to be sure that our student athletes are safe so that it doesn't impact their in-person learning in school, right? We don't want students to be exposed to COVID, if they don't need to be. And so that's why we have those processes in place to be sure that we could have a sports season, an athletic season. And and I was able to watch some of the games, on the television, and it's great to see our student athletes, playing and engaged in the whole effort of teaming, and the spectators on the side, parents, we're following the protocols for our individuals to be spectators, but for our spectators to be watching football or other athletic opportunities for students that'll be coming up, and our students engage in that, and how that relates to classroom, is I think we're at a good place, and we're going to definitely continue with the vaccination protocols that we've established as of this point.
And just to clarify, so you foresee that requirement continuing on into next year as the say the winter sports come in, the spring sports come in. You see this plan continuing on into 2022.
I do see that unless there's some big difference related to or drastic change related to COVID. We want to ensure again the health and safety of our students. That's number one. That's most important. And 91% of our student athletes are vaccinated. 91%, and so that is important, right? Health and safety. So as of right now, if you were to ask me if it's going to continue with what I know now, yes, it will.
I want to ask you, as we have 5 to 11-year-olds vaccinated, will the quarantine protocols change for those students who are vaccinated? We know that, just in my own experience, I just know this as a mom, when, we had a COVID scare in our home, and because my children are not vaccinated, they had to quarantine for the full 10 days. Because I am vaccinated, I was only required to quarantine for 5 days. So if you have students now who are vaccinated, will those sort of procedures trickle down? And in other words, that could be an incentive for parents who don't want to have their kids, in addition to, of course, the protection against the virus, they don't want to have to pull their kids out of school for 10 days. It's much more appealing to have to only pull them out for 5. So do you anticipate any changes to the quarantine protocols based on having these students now vaccinated?
Well, again, we take our lead on protocols related to health from the Department of Health, and we've had a great relationship with them in communication, and our partnership has been exemplary, I think, in my opinion. And so we'll continue to work with the Department of Health, and those, as of right now, those protocols with the information that we have, they will remain consistent. So I definitely encourage, or highly encourage, parents to consider getting their students, their 5 to 11 students who are capable of getting vaccinated, to get those vaccines. As you shared, Yunji, it will help as if there are cases that are identified in school, those individuals who are vaccinated, quarantining is a very different process.
We're running out of time here, but I did, before we end, want to get onto distance learning and that availability that has been made for those parents who still do not feel that school is safe, or distance learning for those children who might be in quarantine. When we last spoke, you had talked about a need for teachers, and that the department was really just trying to catch up with 2 weeks to go and trying to stand up that service once again. How critical do you think that distance learning will be continuing on moving forward as we see these numbers drop? Is this something that's going to continue to be a priority in the event of another Delta-like surge in the coming months? How much effort is being placed into expanding distance learning at this point in time?
Well, we currently have about 10,000 students on distance, about 6% of our total enrollment. And we are seeing in some cases individual students, opting to in person, right? And so we definitely encourage our parents, that as we move forward, to next school year, definitely I encourage everyone to participate in the in-person, especially with vaccines now available, right? So it's kind of a two-part thing. If your children are able to get vaccinated, please get them vaccinated. I highly encourage that. And then stay in person. While in-person learning definitely has its benefits, as we shared the last time, it's about students being in school, being able to correspond and interact with not only with their teacher, but with their peers and their friends, and playing at recess, safely, and all of that, as well as different kinds of services, whether it be counseling services are available in school, nutrition and food security, meals. We support students holistically, in a multidimensional kind of a way, and so it's really important that we get our students back. So to your question about distance learning, we are definitely looking at options for our students and providing those opportunities for them. With that, though, I very much encourage our students and our parents for in-person learning. It's just what we're seeing in school is the emotional, the academic, social, emotional, academic impacts for students. As we can see what happened as a result of the pandemic and moving students, full distance learning, to transitioning them back now, we see the gain for students, and I hear from teachers, right? The gain that students have made just in the short time that they've been in person for this last quarter and a half, and so in my mind, I hear from the teachers and they're sharing that with me. It's even more important that they be back in person, but we will have distance learning options available. But again, encouraging in person.
Well, on that, and I know we're almost out of time, but on that, sort of following that same thread of thought, can you tell us a little bit about learning loss and how long you think it's going to take for our students to catch up? Because for many kids, they really weren't able to engage properly with distance learning last year, and a lot of them basically lost a year of schooling, and we're seeing that in the test scores. What are you expecting for the test scores, and how long do you think it will take Hawaii to catch up?
I think as we see across the country and actually internationally, research is showing that the learning loss that students have experienced as a result of the pandemic, right? As a result of the pandemic, um, it, it 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 is not a year for year correlation, I believe. So the loss that they experienced, we will definitely do. Not we will do. We are doing our best to help support our students and to help to accelerate that learning, to catch them up, right, and to help address their needs. That time though is going to be dependent student to student, and so I think that's why it's important that all what our schools are doing to address that. We have implemented an academic screener to kind of see where students are academically, to see where our students are socio-emotionally on a socio-emotional screener, and based on that data, and building on what the schools already know about their students, looking at implementing those strategies or continue to implement strategies or to intensify strategies that will help support our students in moving forward. But it's important, I think, that we can't do it alone. It needs to be a collective effort. We count on parents to continue to talk to their kids at home, to reflect on what they learned about, to be engaged with their child's education. We count on our community to help continue to support what we're doing as a public education system, and to support schools and teachers and principals and our school communities to help move things forward. So if the question is if exactly how much time it's going to take, I can't answer that honestly. I can tell you though with confidence that our schools are doing all they can do and above and beyond to help support our students in a variety of ways to help accelerate that learning process.
Well, our time is up, and we thank you so much for spending this time this morning with us. There was a lot of things that we weren't able to talk to, but we appreciate you taking the time to be a part of the conversation here this morning. And hopefully we can have you back on so we can touch on some of those other issues that I know a lot of people are still concerned about and obviously have questions about. So we look forward to having you on again. Thank you so much, Interim Superintendent Keith Hayashi. Thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Yunji. Thank you.
Aloha.
Aloha. Wow, we did cover a lot of ground, Ryan. You're right. And we still see a lot of questions in the comments, specifically looking at the vaccination clinics in schools, whether parents can be present or not. We know that there are some concerns around that. He said it will basically mirror the vaccination clinics that schools have had for the 12 and up. And so it really varies school by school in terms of what facilities are available and what decisions the principals make in those various schools.
Yeah, and there is obviously has been some breakout cases. We talked a little bit about the ventilation system, about how the schools plan to respond to those who don't have adequate ventilation system. He's saying that that they are continuing to advise them, and really, again, we go back to that conversation we had last week with the head of HSTA and some of the conflicting reports that we're hearing from the DOE as well as from the teacher's standpoint of what is being communicated of how to mitigate these types of situations in classrooms, questions about what the standard procedures are with quarantining and how they deal with some of these cases that break out in schools. The superintendent here saying that a lot of it is based on a case-by-case basis, that it is hard to have a uniform system that overrides all the schools within the state, but that a lot of that is left up to the the principals and those administrators on the ground to help to advise some of the plans that would happen should those cases and those reports come out. And so we will continue to follow up as there seems to be some conflicting reports as to what is actually being communicated.
Yeah, it's very interesting because the Osatui Jr., in their grievance report to the labor board, which is underway right now, which Keith Hayashi said he couldn't speak to directly, but, he said that one of their main complaints is the inconsistency in the quarantine protocols. And Keith Hayashi essentially saying that that is by design because the principals and administrators on the ground have to decide what to do in each case. The HSTA saying that those inconsistencies make it very confusing for teachers and for families. So we'll have to see how that how the Labor Relations Board decides to proceed with that grievance. He also addressed the substitute teacher shortage. If you haven't had a chance, we do encourage you to head over to the paper's website and read that article. It's very in-depth about what some schools are facing with the substitute teacher shortage, and the changes that have been made. They are accepting people with just a high school degree, no college education, to come in and substitute teach, because they really need anyone who can to do so.
And it sounds like for the most part that the requirement for student athletes to participate and having that vaccination in order to participate in school athletics will continue on into the 2022 seasons. We know that a lot of the fall sports are wrapping up. The winter sports are just around the corner, as well as, of course, the spring sports season that is still to come as well. But at this point in time, the superintendent saying if all continues to be as planned and the way they're mapping out, those requirements will continue to stay in place for those athletes as well. So a lot to continue to stay tuned in with them over there at the Department of Education. We didn't even get to talk about the budget issues that continue to happen. A lot of topics we would have loved to discuss, but unfortunately we only have a half an hour.
Yeah, the half hour goes quick. Today is a big day for the state. November 1st is the date that the governor has sort of deemed as rolling out the welcome mat formally for visitors to return for leisure to the islands. We'll see how visitors respond. And talking about that with us on Wednesday will be Peter Ingram. He's, of course, the CEO and president of Hawaiian Airlines. What are they seeing in terms of booking? What are they expecting for the holidays? Of course, we'll see if the loads will be the same as they have in years past. Are we expecting the surges that we saw in the summer? We'll talk about all of that with Peter Ingram right here, 10:30 on Wednesday.
We'll see you then. Aloha.
Aloha.
This episode of Spotlight Hawaii was brought to you by Chaminade University.